And I conclude that the murderer is Bethany Hilland. Shock spills through the room, and faces turn to me, following the finger of the clever detective. Lightning follows his voice, and whitens all of the horror for a split second. The room is silent afterwards, smoke drifting between each person from the pipe the salesman puffs. All 8 people stare at me: the ruffian, the pinched-faced woman, the suit man, the young daughter, and the maid. "Clever detective, whatever do you mean?" the widow of the victim asks, turning back to him with a confused expression. "The person who murdered your husband is none other than Bethany Hilland," the detective answers her, and starts to circle the room. Each step of his Italian leather shoes makes a distinct clopping sound on the floor. His long brown trench coat billows behind him, ever so slightly. His black eyes stay on me, and smirk rises from his grey and black moustache. "But, sir," the pinched woman corrects, "there is no Bethany Hilland." He stops on the other side of the room, and he turns to her. "There is no such person named Bethany Hilland in this house," she repeats, ever so crossly. "Of course she is not in this house. She can be anywhere she wants to be, at any time. She is here, right now, yet not at all. You will know none of her, and she will know more about all of you than even you know. She is also the reason one of you has murdered the victim. For you see, my friends, the true murderer is the author." I remove my hands from the typewriter and sit back in my chair, shocked at what the words on my page read. I have no memory of writing anything of the such. This was not the plan for my story. It was like my hands were on autopilot, or I was truly in the writing, but it wasn't my writing. It was like the characters had suddenly gained control of their own destiny, mostly the clever detective. I checked the room around me, so dark that all of the empty shelves were large shadows that wiggle ever so slightly, as if they are somewhat alive. I wonder if this has been enough writing for tonight, that I should march upstairs to my room instead, and just leave the typewriter before anything got weirder, in case those empty shelves turn into actual creatures coming for little me and my borrowed desk, or the antiques hiding among the room would spring to life after several years of being looked over by people searching for treasure from junk in this little thrift store. I look back at the typewriter and the page. Each key glimmers in the moonlight, shiny with wear from years of someone obsessively typing away on it. Some of the numbers have faded into dull scratches in each elevated button. The letter stampers, hot and sticky with fresh ink, wait for my answer in the dark machine. The paper, simple print paper, sags with writing, but stands tall at the empty space behind a pair of quotation marks. My line. My heartbeat hums in my ears, the silence too much for my eardrums. I scratch the inside of my fleece-lined slippers that keep my feet warm. This typewriter was owned by Mr. Bradley James himself, the man who wrote Stalking Night. My aunt's words ring out in my head. And so many other great mystery writers. Legends say anyone who writes on this typewriter will have the most interesting mystery novels, but few of these great writers have ever written again. At first I didn't believe it. She was kind of a wacky person after all, but she let me use a $10,000 antique typewriter, so I was okay with it. I thought that those people were just great mystery writers, but is this typewriter why Bradley James never wrote another novel? Did the typewriter make Stalking Night? And what did it cost? The allure of the keyboard pulls my hand back in. As soon as I touch the warm keys, nothing happens. I think for a second. I type up my answer to my characters, speaking to them as people for the first time since I dreamed them up on the bus ride to this nowhere home with my aunt. "Oh, and is that so?" I write, describe myself in the room. I describe myself appearing in a new chair in the room, a Victorian armchair with velvet cushioning, flowery patterns, and gold buttons. I am wearing an evening gown of copper-colored silk, and I describe my hair as elegant and flowy, not in the crude bun that I wear in real life. My slippers are instead shiny black flats. I smirk at the detective. "Oh, a lady appeared," the young girl announces, as if all of the characters have not noticed me. They all stare at me with disbelief and awe that a new person just appeared out of nowhere. "Welcome, Bethany," the detective greets. "I'm glad you decided to join us this evening. I have been expecting you." He bows at my right and kisses the top of my hand. I blush a little at the thought and oops, I wrote that and blush into the story. "Obviously," I smirk, "you did proclaim that I murdered the good doctor." "What in God's name is this?" the pinched woman demands, getting up from her seat. Her gray eyes stare wildly at me, and I can see the veins in them. Her lip quivers ever so slightly with fright, a sign of her age. In my writing chair, I hear the growl of uneasy thunder, and I hear the pitter-patter of rain. But the night is clear. I'm too excited to care. This is so fun. "I am afraid there is no God, my dear. Only I announced to her. "I am technically the god of their world, after all." Her face drains of color. She clutches a cross around her neck. "So, you created us? We're like characters in a book or something?" the ruffian asks boredly. His tired eyes watch me with the purple marks from his lack of sleep. "Indeed I am. Would you like a beer?" I ask. Before he can give the obvious answer yes, he holds up a hand and he blinks in shock as his favorite brand of beer sits coolly in his hand with the cap popped off. "Whoa!" he gasps and doesn't take a second to start chugging it down. The last few chapters I have deprived him of his cravings. "Can I have a soda?" little girl yells, only to get glared at by the maid. "So, you are the author? Then why did my husband have to die?" the widow asks from her couch. She sniffles and pulls a fist around her well-dirtied handkerchief. "That's easy, 'cause I have written you all in a murder mystery story. Just something to do while I'm at my aunt's place for the summer. It feels like I'm actually speaking to them, but I know I'm not. For I am not so elegant with my speech and true voice, I would actually not speak to them at all, taking my preference to listen to brave souls who dare speak aloud. I would never be so brazen." "Really, then?" the salesman growls and glares at me from his side of the room. His eyes meet mine, and I look away. I do not want his attention. "So are you the person who brought us here to this island? What do you plan to do with us?" the man in the suit asks. "You mean, what does she plan to do with me?" the detective asks. He looks over at me with a sly, handsome smile on his mahogany lips. I suddenly feel sorry for what I was planning to do to him in this chapter. Lightning flashes and illuminates the room suddenly. 1, 2, 3 seconds. Then the thunder rolls, so loud and long it could have been a hive of angry jets flying above. "Yes, you were supposed to die this evening. A real murderer was going to show up and kill you in the dark in about a minute or two. But you didn't start your rant like you were supposed to. Instead, you went for me, rather than the murderer, protecting his identity. It is you giving the credit to me," I reluctantly reveal. I see the futility of keeping the secret now. "Indeed, you are not the true murderer. The person who caused suffering to everyone, all their lives from their birth to their death. You are the reason for every one of their problems." I have never thought of that before. It is true, though. I robbed the widow of her loving husband. I gave the salesman an abusive family. I gave the ruffian his addictions and his scars. I orphaned that little girl. I have trapped the maid, and I have done so much more to the detective. They are no longer just words on a page in this moment. It is like I am looking at them, looking into their eyes and seeing their betrayal and sadness, anger and some outright fury. More than ever, I feel responsible for them. It is true, I am their god in a way. They all look away from me, each sickened at my true form. I see the guilt on your face, the clever detective whispers to me. You never really did see us as people, did you? We are your characters, your creations. You thought you could harm us as you please, 'cause we aren't real. I feel a weight pushing my shoulder down. I look behind me in real life, but no one is there. My fingers keep rapidly typing words on the typewriter. Instead, I just read the words as they appear. My hands are no longer in my control. We can be as real as we want to be, the salesman says and stands. His hands shake as the knife appears from them, from the secret pocket only I know of. Let me show you how real I am, he shouts, and with a flash of lightning, the light shorts out. The room goes black. I scream in real life as it feels like a knife has been stabbed into my chest, and I fall out of the antique chair onto the floor. I gasp for air and clutch my chest. A light flicks on upstairs as my vision blurs in and out. I gasp again, but air has become useless to me. I don't hear my heartbeat in my ears anymore. Feet appear in front of my face, and I hear my aunt yelling about an ambulance and 911. I pass out, not knowing if I would ever wake up again. I survived a heart attack. Unusual because my family has no history of it, and the doctor heard no sign of a clotted artery. My heart just stopped for no reason. I knew the reason. When I came back to my aunt's thrift store in a wheelchair, she set me by the typewriter so she can talk to a customer. Looks so ordinary. Its $10,000 tag still hanging on it, and the keys now cold and shiny in the morning sunlight. The slot for paper is empty, and the dials have been carefully cleaned off of ink. It looks so innocent. Then I noticed a stack of paper sitting on the desk, neatly bound with yarn. I picked it up and looked through it. It was an entire novel. My story, but refined, edited, and even better than when I wrote it. The characters were given names, and the writing was better, and the twist was better. It was as if someone had rewritten it to be the best mystery novel in the world overnight. I watched the typewriter warily. When I am pushed upstairs, I read the story, and the thought comes up, should I publish this? I reach over to my chest and put a hand over my heart. It beats under my pajamas. A faint pain lingers there, and it will each time I think of the characters or the story. I shove the papers into a drawer and go to sleep. I wonder if I'll be able to have the bravery to write again, to cause pain to characters for the plot, to play a god with non-real people.